Tonight, your journey begins, not in dreams, but in the sands of time itself. Beneath the ancient sky, where stars have watched for thousands of years, rests the Sphinx, silent, eternal, watching over the golden hush of the desert. Tonight, you will sleep in its shadow, where legends fade into whispers, and every grain of sand tells a story. Breathe slowly now, let your thoughts soften, and allow the night to carry you into the stillness of ancient Egypt, into a time where nothing rushes, and all things sleep in peace. This is sleeping in the shadow of the Sphinx. The night air was still and cool as it moved gently across the open sands. The stars above shimmered in delicate silence, spread across the sky like scattered grains of silver dust. Each breath Naren took drew in the desert's calm, and each breath he released left behind the quiet weight of the day. He lay at the edge of the great stone figure, the Sphinx towering silently beside him, its ancient gaze fixed forward, unmoving, unblinking. The sand beneath him was warm from the memory of the sun, but the air above had cooled with the setting of the day. It created a perfect balance, soothing against his skin, neither too hot nor too cold. He closed his eyes for a moment and listened. There was no sound, except for the soft rustling of wind brushing gently over the dunes, the occasional creak of shifting stone, the faintest whisper of air moving between time-worn rocks. He opened his eyes and looked up. The stars blinked slowly in the dark sky, their light steady, distant, and patient. They watched the earth below with quiet knowing, as if they had seen everything and forgotten nothing. Naren had always felt comfort beneath their gaze. There was no judgment in the stars, only presence. He did not need to explain himself to the stars, nor ask them for anything. They simply were, and so was he. The Sphinx loomed nearby, its form both sharp and soft in the dim light. It was shaped from stone, carved by hands, long vanished, but it carried something greater than the marks of chisel and time. It held silence, it held peace, it held the stillness of things that no longer moved, yet had not lost meaning. Naren had come here without seeking answers. He had come for the stillness, and now, with the sky so wide and the world so quiet, he had found it. His body rested easily against the sand. Each limb had grown heavy, not with burden, but with release. There was nothing he needed to do now, nowhere he needed to go. He had walked long enough through the day's light, through the soft shadows of memory, through thoughts that had filled his mind like wind-blown leaves. Now they were quiet. Now there was only the present moment, stretched wide like the sky above. He remembered the Nile, wide and slow, a ribbon of silver winding through the land. He pictured the way its surface rippled in the breeze, how birds moved silently above it, their wings gliding without effort. The river had no need to hurry. It moved as it always had, carving its path, not with force, but with patience. He imagined lying beside it, just as he lay now, letting the river speak its soft language of movement and time. The wind shifted slightly, changing its direction just enough to bring a new scent to the air. It was faint, like dried herbs and sun-warmed stone, mixed with the faint sweetness of flowering desert plants that bloomed only in the quiet of night. He inhaled slowly, letting the smell drift through him like a dream, like something half-remembered but not quite named. He did not speak. There was no need. The night did not ask for words. It asked only for presence. The desert was not empty. It was full of space, full of silence, full of the small and sacred movements that filled the time between sunrise and sunrise. The owl calling in the distance, the grains of sand shifting beneath a beetle's slow path, the stars humming in their steady places far above the reach of thought. He looked again at the Sphinx. His face was carved in calm. Its eyes were open to everything and closed to nothing. It had no thoughts, no worries, no voice, but it spoke in its stillness. It said, "Here is where the world can pause. Here is where your thoughts can rest. Here is where nothing must be solved. Here is where you are allowed to be quiet." Naren's breath slowed further. Each inhale felt like a gift, each exhale like a release. The sand embraced him without pressure. The air surrounded him without pushing. His heartbeat moved in rhythm with the world, slow and deep and even. He was not falling asleep. He was not drifting away. He was becoming still. He was arriving in stillness. The memory of water returned to him again, soft and steady. He imagined it now not as a river, but as a small pool hidden between rocks, shaded and protected, its surface still and unbroken. He imagined dipping his hand into it, watching the ripples spread out in perfect circles. No splash, no rush, only the quiet mark of touch. He did not disturb the water, he joined it. The night deepened, though it made no announcement. The stars grew sharper, the wind softened even more. The scent in the air changed once again, and now it smelled of cool stone and old earth, the kind of scent that comes only after many hours of stillness. Naren blinked slowly, his eyes feeling heavier now, not from fatigue, but from peace. His body was a part of the sand. His breath was a part of the air. There were no stories to tell now, no future to worry over, no past to measure. There was only this moment, stretched out like a sleeping cat beneath the moon. It moved, but slowly. It breathed, but gently. Naren let his mind float across it like a leaf on a breeze. He thought of nothing, and in doing so, he found everything he needed. He felt the Sphinx behind him, not watching, not listening, simply being. He imagined its great paws resting calmly against the earth, unmoved for centuries, holding the weight of stillness without resistance. He imagined that stillness entering him, not as something taught, but as something remembered. The world did not need his attention. The stars did not need to be counted. The wind did not need a name. He closed his eyes again and felt the shape of the moment. It was wide and quiet. It held him gently. It asked nothing of him and gave him everything. The soft rustle of the desert breath moved across the dunes like the touch of a quiet hand. It said, "Sleep." It said, "Rest." It said, "Be here." The sky above remained unchanged, vast and open, its blackness deep and complete. The stars continued their silent shimmer, neither closer nor farther, but steady in their glow. Naren let the stillness fill him, not with thoughts or meaning, but with quiet itself. He no longer needed to listen for anything. The silence was enough. He imagined time slowing, stretching out like a ribbon drawn gently between his fingers. It was not something he was chasing, nor something he was escaping. It was simply there, unrolling softly like the path of a river. He did not feel the pressure of its movement. He felt only its presence, like a cool breeze that passed without pushing. His mind floated gently now, untethered from the usual weight of wondering or remembering. There was no need to organize the day, no reason to prepare for the morning. He was in the space between moments where nothing pulled at him. His thoughts passed like soft clouds, neither stormy nor bright, simply drifting, slow and harmless. The sand cradled his body in the same way the sky cradled the stars, with room to breathe and no expectation. He shifted only slightly, just enough to feel the grains move beneath his shoulder, dry and smooth and familiar. It was the smallest movement, a reminder that his body still belonged to the earth, and the earth held him kindly. In his mind he returned again to the quiet river, not to follow it, but to sit beside it. He imagined a flat rock beneath him, its surface warm from the day, its edges soft from time. He sat with his legs crossed, hands resting gently on his knees. The water moved beside him, slow and wide, reflecting the moonlight in long ripples that shimmered and disappeared. He dipped his hand again into the water. It was neither cold nor warm, simply present. The ripples moved outward, calm and even, touching nothing but changing everything for a moment. He lifted his hand and watched the droplets fall. They landed silently, returning to the surface without protest. The river made space for everything. Back beneath the Sphinx, the desert held him still. The great figure behind him had not moved, would never move, but its presence filled the night like a silent story. Its face was quiet, its expression unreadable but not cold. It was the kind of stillness that needed no answer, no purpose, no praise. It simply existed, and that was its strength. Naren thought of the people who must have stood before the Sphinx long before he was born. Travelers, priests, dreamers, children. He imagined their footprints in the sand, long since gone, covered and uncovered by winds and time. They had stood and looked up, just as he had, and then they had rested, just as he did now. He was not alone in this stillness, though no one stood beside him. He felt a quiet connection to every soul that had found peace here before him. They had come seeking nothing and found everything, not in words, not in signs, but in the quiet, endless breath of the desert. He felt the wind shift again, only slightly, bringing with it the faintest scent of smoke, as if somewhere far away a fire had been built to keep someone warm. He imagined that person lying near the flames, wrapped in a blanket, watching the same sky he saw now. They did not know each other, but they shared the night, and that was enough. The stars seemed to tilt ever so slightly, not spinning, not falling, just sliding along the sky as they always had. He watched their movement, not with awe, but with deep comfort. They were always in motion, and yet they always returned. There was peace in that pattern. There was safety in knowing the sky kept its own time. His breath deepened. Each inhale was smooth, full of cool air that held no weight. Each exhale was long and slow, drawing his body closer to the earth. He could feel his thoughts slowing to match his breath, long and low and even. He did not fight the stillness. He became it. There was no need to measure time here, no need to remember what hour it was, or how long he had been lying still. The night was not made of hours. It was made of softness, of shadow, of space. And in that space, everything he had once held tightly now drifted freely, unbound and light. The Sphinx remained. The sand remained. The stars remained. And in the presence of those steady, silent things, Naren let himself rest without question. The night deepened around him, not by darkness thickening, but by silence deepening. Every sound became gentler, every movement slower. The world no longer rushed, and in its unhurried rhythm, Naren felt more present, more whole. The desert did not ask for anything. It gave without cost and welcomed without need. His hands shifted slightly through the sand, fingers brushing fine grains that felt soft and endless. There was something eternal in that touch, not because the sand held memories, but because it held no resistance. He imagined the sand as ancient as the stars above, and yet not concerned with age. It simply existed, and its only task was to be part of this quiet moment. A lizard scurried nearby, its movement so small and light that it barely made a sound. Naren did not open his eyes. He could sense it, hear its tiny steps, but it was not a disturbance. It was part of the night, part of the hush, part of the desert's slow breathing. Even the creatures of this place knew how to move without noise, how to live without haste. In his mind, he wandered again beside the Nile. He saw himself walking slowly along the edge of the river, his footprints pressing into damp earth. The water beside him flowed without concern. It curved gently past reeds and rocks, and each bend of its path felt like a soft whisper. He paused near a willow tree, its thin branches brushing the water's surface. The leaves shimmered under the moonlight, their silver tips flickering like quiet flames. He imagined sitting beneath that tree, knees drawn up, arms resting loosely on top. He listened to the frogs calling softly in the reeds, to the water kissing the bank with slow, round lips. Everything moved in rhythm, unhurried and complete. The night asked nothing of him. The river offered no direction. He was free to stay as long as he wished. Back in the desert, a shooting star slipped silently across the sky, a single moment of light stretching across the darkness. Naren did not wish upon it. He did not need anything. It was enough to see the streak and feel part of its quiet passing. He thought of how far it had traveled, and how gently it had arrived. There was something beautiful in that, not the spectacle, but the softness of arrival. He turned his head slightly and felt the air against his cheek. It was cooler now, but not cold, the kind of coolness that refreshed without startling. It touched him like a calm hand, steady and sure. He breathed it in and let it move through him. There was no tension in his shoulders, no tightness in his chest. His legs rested without weight. His arms had grown still. The Sphinx remained silent. Its calm presence filled the space behind him like a mountain that watched but never moved. He could feel the shape of it even with his eyes closed. The still curve of its paws, the square strength of its chest, the face shaped in focus and peace. It had watched the night for centuries, and it would watch for centuries more. It had no need to sleep, and yet it kept watch over those who did. He thought of the many people who had stood where he now lay, some seeking wisdom, others seeking silence. Some had found answers in the stone, others had found only questions, but all had felt this same quiet, the same vastness of sky above, the same sense that time here was not measured in hours, but in the stillness between breaths. A memory floated into Naren's mind, a quiet afternoon in a garden long ago. He had been younger, sitting in the shade of a fig tree. The leaves had fluttered gently above, and the scent of ripe fruit had filled the air. A breeze had moved through the garden, carrying birdsong and the rustling of grass. He had felt peace there, a simple contentment that needed no explanation. Now, lying beneath the Sphinx, that feeling returned, not as a thought, but as a presence, the kind of feeling that rested in the bones and needed no words. the kind that settled into the heart and brought everything to stillness. He was not alone, and he was not waiting. He was simply here. The stars above held their places, forming ancient patterns that had guided people for generations. The constellations did not demand attention. They offered guidance only to those who looked up, and even for those who did not, they remained present, patient, steady. Naren felt held by them, not with hands or arms, but with light and quiet and space. The hours passed without notice, not marked by clocks or changes in sound, but only by the slow turning of the sky. Naren did not measure them. He did not need to. He felt them instead, each one a soft wave of stillness, rising and falling gently, leaving behind more peace than the one before. His body had become light, almost indistinct, not because he floated, but because the earth supported him so completely. The sand beneath his back did not press. It accepted. It shaped itself to him like water shapes to stone, filling each curve, embracing each line, holding him with nothing but calm. The air moved softly across the desert, stirring faint ripples in the dunes. It brushed against his face, passed through his hair, touched his fingertips like a lullaby. It brought with it no scent now, only the clean, neutral breath of night. It carried no message, no warning, no change. It was simply air, and it was kind. He opened his eyes slowly and saw the Sphinx again, its face shadowed in moonlight, its lines both sharp and soft and by time. He studied it quietly, not as a mystery, but as a companion. It did not blink, did not stir, did not judge. It listened. It kept still. It offered no sound and no reply. And in that silence, Naren found something deeper than words. His breath moved hizzily, deep and slow. Each inhale filled him with quiet. Each exhale emptied him of thought. He no longer wondered how long he would lie here. He no longer planned what came next. He had forgotten the path that led him here, and he no longer needed to remember. All that mattered now was the stillness that held him in its arms. He imagined the sky stretching beyond what his eyes could see, not just above him, but wrapping around the whole world. It was not a dome but a sea, and the stars were not far, but floating close like lanterns on the surface of calm water. The moon glowed steadily above, casting silver across the dunes like a soft veil. Far off in the distance, he saw a line of low hills, their shapes rounded and smooth, their shadows long and gentle. There were no harsh edges in the night. Everything was softened by distance, by darkness, by quiet. Even the rocks, even the scattered trees, even the distant mountains. The whole world had leaned into stillness. Naren's thoughts grew lighter, slower, thinner. They moved like dust in sunlight, barely visible, always drifting, never landing. He did not chase them. He let them pass. He let them circle and rise and fall. They did not matter. They had no weight here. Here, in the shadow of the Sphinx, only stillness mattered. He thought of water again, but not the wide river now. This time, it was a narrow stream that moved between stones, hidden in the folds of tall grass. It made no noise louder than a whisper, but it moved always forward. He imagined kneeling beside it, cupping his hands in its flow, watching it slip through his fingers without force. It did not fight him. It passed through him. The desert air cooled further, but not unkindly. It wrapped around him like a soft fabric, woven from silence and time, the kind of cold that asked for stillness, not retreat. He remained where he was, not because he had nowhere else to go, but because there was nowhere better than here. He felt something shift inside him, not a thought, not a realization, but a settling, a deep, unspoken understanding that this moment was enough. That rest did not need permission. That peace did not need to be earned. That stillness, once accepted, gave back more than it asked for. The Sphinx seemed to nod in agreement, though it did not move. Its great, stone face remained the same, its expression unreadable, but its presence said everything. It said stay. It said rest. It said this place has waited for you, longer than you have known how to wait. And now that you are here, you may stay as long as you like. Naren felt tears press lightly behind his eyes, not from sadness, not from joy, but from release, from the kind of peace that arrived without warning and asked for nothing in return. He let them stay where they were. They did not fall. They simply shimmered gently, like stars inside him. The world around him grew quieter still, as if even time itself had taken pause. The stars continued their gentle shimmer, not brighter, not dimmer, just steady in their far and ancient places. The sky was deep and endless, yet somehow close, like a ceiling of peace above him, woven from the quiet of 1,000 forgotten nights. Naren's breath remained slow and full. He did not try to breathe deeply, nor did he try to control it. It simply moved through him, rising and falling like the desert wind, like the rhythm of the stars. Each breath was a gentle thread, pulling him closer to stillness, closer to sleep, closer to something timeless and soft. He imagined the sands of the desert stretching for miles around him, soft and golden by day, smooth and silver by night. He thought of how the dunes changed shape with the wind, but never complained, never resisted. They were shaped by nature and gave themselves to the change, trusting the movement of things beyond them. He wished to be like that, soft and sure, untroubled by change, resting in what was. His mind drifted toward the past again, but this time not with stories or memories, only with feelings. He thought of walking as a boy between tall stone buildings, their surfaces warm from the sun, their shadows cool and full of dust. He remembered running with bare feet over dry earth, hearing the soft crackle of leaves, the low hum of bees moving from flower to flower. He remembered laughter, distant and light, the kind that echoes only once and leaves behind warmth. He felt his body sink deeper into the sand, not from weight, but from surrender. The desert welcomed him without question. It asked for no words, no thoughts, no movement. It accepted him completely, just as he was, just as he had come. The ground beneath him held no secrets, no warnings. It simply held him. The wind had softened to barely a breath. It moved like a whisper, as if it had run out of things to say, and now simply wished to be near. Naren felt it pass over him and through him, not taking anything, not leaving anything, just moving with him as he imagined again the stream in the grass, the water curving quietly between smooth stones. He could almost hear it now, a low murmur of movement, of softness, of time passing without rush. He dipped his hand again and let the water run over his skin, cool and smooth. There was no need to hold it. It flowed, and he let it go. His eyes were closed again. He had not noticed when he closed them, only that the darkness behind his eyelids felt no different than the sky above. Everything was soft now, even the edges of his thoughts. They no longer came in clear shapes or sounds. They were more like shadows on water, moving without form, without weight. The Sphinx behind him had become part of the silence. Its presence no longer felt separate. It was not a statue now. It was the desert itself. It was the night. It was the calm. Naren did not try to understand it. He only stayed near it, rested near it, breathed near it. He no longer knew how long he had been lying there, and it no longer mattered. He had entered the rhythm of the desert, of the stars, of the spaces between things. He was part of the stillness, and the stillness was part of him. He drifted now, not into sleep, but into the shape of it. His thoughts were far away, but not lost. His body was weightless, but not gone. He was here, fully here, and yet gently somewhere else too, somewhere deeper, somewhere softer. The desert held him, the wind passed over him, the stars watched above him, and the Sphinx remained, still and silent and steady. All things were as they should be. Nothing was missing, nothing was rushed, everything was still, and in that stillness, sleep came, not as a door closing, not as a light fading, but as a soft and perfect pause, the kind that lasts, the kind that heals, the kind that stays. The desert night remained gentle, its silence unfolding like a soft blanket across the land. The sky stretched endlessly above, a canvas of deep navy painted with countless stars, each one a quiet witness to the stillness below. Naren opened his eyes slowly, the darkness behind his eyelids blending seamlessly with the night around him. There was no rush, no hurry to rise or move. He lay comfortably in the warm embrace of the sand, feeling the cool breath of the evening air settle over his skin. The Sphinx stood nearby, an eternal guardian carved from stone, its presence both imposing and calming. The great monument held its secrets quietly, speaking only in the language of stillness. Naren felt as if he had been invited into a sacred space where time paused, where thoughts softened, and where peace became a living, breathing thing. Here, beneath the watchful eyes of the ancient figure, he could let go of everything else. He breathed deeply, the air filling his lungs with a coolness that soothed his spirit. Each exhale carried away the tension of the day, the worries and questions that had followed him like shadows. The desert night did not ask for answers or explanations. It only asked for presence, for the gentle acceptance of what was. Naren felt himself responding, letting his mind quiet, letting his heart slow. Around him, the desert whispered softly. The wind traced patterns across the dunes, weaving a song of quiet movement. The faint rustle of dry grasses stirred in the gentle breeze, and somewhere in the distance, a solitary owl called out, its voice a soft melody echoing through the stillness. These sounds were not distractions but invitations, inviting Naren deeper into the calm, inviting him to surrender to the night. He imagined the stars above as ancient storytellers, their light traveling vast distances to reach him, carrying with it the wisdom of countless ages. Each star held a story, a memory, a dream that had once been spoken or dreamed by those long gone. Naren felt connected to these stories, not as a listener seeking knowledge, but as a part of the endless thread weaving past, present, and future together. In this moment, he was woven into the tapestry of the night. His thoughts drifted gently like the desert sands, soft and slow. He thought of the Nile River, winding through the land far away, its waters steady and sure. He pictured the riverbanks lined with palm trees, their leaves swaying in an invisible breeze. He imagined the quiet flow of water, the gentle lapping against smooth stones, the soft murmurs of life hidden beneath its surface. This image filled him with a calm certainty, a reminder that life moved steadily forward, even when stillness seemed absolute. Naren's body grew heavier with relaxation, sinking deeper into the sand. The warmth of the earth beneath him was steady and reassuring, a silent support that required no effort or attention. His muscles loosened, his heartbeat slowed, and his breath became a slow, even rhythm. He felt cradled by the desert, held in the embrace of a world that needed nothing from him but his quiet presence. The Sphinx's silent watch seemed to extend a protective energy over the landscape. Naren imagined its stone eyes glowing softly with the light of the moon, seeing beyond the physical into the realm of dreams. It was a sentinel of rest, a guardian of sleep, offering safety to all who sought refuge in its shadow. The thought brought a gentle smile to Naren's lips, a small acknowledgement of comfort in the vastness of the night. As his mind continued to soften, Naren allowed images to come and go without holding on to any. He saw vast deserts, turning golden beneath a rising sun, heard the distant laughter of children playing near an oasis, felt the gentle touch of water flowing over his fingers. Each scene was a fleeting caress, a whisper of peace, fading softly into the background as the night deepened. The desert night seemed endless, a boundless space of calm and quiet. Time lost meaning here. There was no yesterday or tomorrow, only now. This moment stretched wide and deep, inviting rest. Naren embraced the stillness fully, sinking into it like the softest mattress, knowing that in this place he could find true peace. The night sky held its silent vigil, its vastness stretching beyond what the eye could see, beyond what the mind could grasp. Naren lay still beneath the quiet stars, feeling the cool desert breeze drift lightly over him, carrying with it the subtle sense of night-blooming flowers and warm earth. Each breath he took felt like a thread weaving him more tightly into the fabric of this peaceful night. He thought of the countless travelers who had come before him, crossing the sands and pausing in the shadow of the Sphinx. Some had sought answers, some had sought shelter, others had come simply to rest. They were all connected by the same need for stillness, for a moment of quiet away from the rush of the world. In this shared silence, Naren felt a gentle kinship with them all, as though their collective presence had left an imprint on the very air. The stars continued their slow dance across the sky, ancient and unchanging, their light a soft glow against the black velvet. Naren imagined that each star was a quiet guardian, watching over the desert and the lives that moved within it. Their light traveled across vast distances, a steady reminder of constancy in a world that often felt uncertain. He found comfort in their patient shine. His thoughts drifted to the river again, that slow-moving ribbon of life winding through the earth. He pictured its banks lined with reeds that bent gracefully in the wind, with small creatures dipping toes and paws into the cool water. He imagined sitting on a smooth stone beside the river, feeling the sun warm his skin, hearing the soft ripple of water moving past. The river carried away worries and brought with it the promise of renewal. The desert around him was a living tapestry of shadow and light. The dunes rolled gently like waves frozen in time, their curves softened by the moonlight. The sparse vegetation, tamarisk bushes, hardy grasses stood as silent sentinels, resilient and enduring. Naren felt a deep appreciation for the strength in their quiet perseverance, a reminder that even in stillness, life continued. A faint rustle came from nearby, the soft footsteps of a small creature moving carefully over the sand. It was so quiet that it barely disturbed the stillness, a gentle reminder that the desert was full of life, even in its calmest moments. Naren smiled softly, feeling a peaceful connection to the world around him, a world that was both vast and intimately close. He shifted slightly, the sand shifting with him, warm and welcoming. His body felt heavy but free, relaxed in a way that invited sleep but did not force it. The cool air kissed his skin, and he let his mind drift with it, carried gently along currents of calm and comfort. Naren's breathing deepened, each inhale slow and full, each exhale long and even. He felt as though his breath was in rhythm with the desert itself, slow and steady, measured and peaceful. He imagined that with each breath, he was drawing in the night's stillness, filling himself with its quiet power. The Sphinx loomed beside him, timeless and steady. Its form was etched clearly in the moonlight, every line and curve a testament to ages past. Naren felt a sense of awe, not in the grandness of the monument, but in its enduring presence. It was a reminder that some things stood beyond time, beyond change, offering a silent promise of constancy and protection. His thoughts began to fade like the last light of dusk, softening into a gentle haze. The images of rivers and stars, of sand and sky, blended into a quiet dream. He felt himself moving closer to sleep, not rushing or forcing, but sliding gently into the arms of rest. The desert night held him tenderly, a cradle made of stone and sand and sky. The wind sang a lullaby, soft and low, a song without words that reached deep into the heart. Naren listened without needing to understand, letting the melody carry him further into peace. He closed his eyes fully, feeling the weight of the world fall away. The breath in his lungs slowed to a rhythm that matched the pulse of the earth beneath him. The stillness wrapped around him like a cloak, warm and protective. In this place, beneath the watchful gaze of the Sphinx and the endless stars, Naren found a sanctuary, a place where the mind could rest, where the heart could quiet, where sleep could come gently and deeply, like a wave folding softly onto the shore. The cool night air brushed softly against Naren's skin, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming jasmine and warm earth. The desert stretched endlessly around him, its gentle curves and shadows blending into the quiet of the evening. He felt a profound stillness settling deep within, a quiet that was not empty, but full of calm and comfort. His thoughts wandered to the great river once more, to the gentle murmur of water moving over stones, worn smooth by time. He imagined the surface sparkling under the moon's gentle glow, a silver ribbon weaving through the land. The water's path was steady, patient, never hurried or forced. It moved with quiet determination, teaching him the beauty of gentle persistence. Above, the stars shone softly, their light filtering through the vastness like a tender caress. Naren imagined the stories they had witnessed, countless nights of travelers seeking shelter, dreamers searching for peace, lovers sharing whispered promises beneath their watchful glow. The stars held these stories without judgment, offering only light and presence. The desert sand beneath him was warm and soft, shifting gently as he moved. Each grain was a tiny world of its own, ancient and full of history. Naren felt connected to the earth, as if the desert itself was breathing alongside him, its rhythm slow and steady. The sand cradled him like a soft bed, offering comfort without effort or expectation. He listened to the night around him, the distant call of an owl, the rustle of dry grasses in the breeze, the subtle shift of sand carried by the wind. These sounds blended into a quiet symphony, a lullaby of nature that invited rest and surrender. Naren allowed himself to be carried by this music, feeling the tension in his body dissolve with each passing note. The Sphinx stood nearby, a silent guardian carved from stone, its presence both timeless and grounding. Naren imagined the hands that had shaped it centuries ago, the care and patience poured into every detail. The monument was a testament to endurance, to the quiet strength that comes from standing firm through the ages. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for this place, for the stillness it offered, for the way it held him gently in its embrace. Here, beneath the stars and in the shadow of the Sphinx, he could let go of the worries and noise of the world. He could simply be. Naren's breath deepened, flowing slow and even, With each inhale, he drew in peace. With each exhale, he released any lingering tension. His body grew heavier, more relaxed, sinking deeper into the sand. The warmth of the earth seeped into him, soothing and steadying. He imagined the desert as a vast ocean of sand, waves rolling silently under the moonlight. Each dune was a gentle swell, each breeze a whispering tide. He was adrift on this sea, carried without effort, moving with the soft rhythm of nature. There was no destination, no urgency, only the endless flow of calm. The night sky seemed to draw closer, wrapping around him like a protective canopy. The constellations formed familiar shapes: the hunter, the scales, the lion itch, a silent companion on his journey. Their light was soft but sure, a quiet beacon guiding him toward rest. His thoughts became softer, more distant, like clouds drifting across a vast sky. He did not chase them. He let them float freely, unburdened and light. In this space between waking and sleeping, he found freedom, a release from the hold of time and worry. The desert night wrapped him in its stillness, a gentle cloak woven from silence and stars. Naren felt himself drifting deeper into rest, his mind and body surrendering to the gentle pull of sleep. The Sphinx remained beside him, steady and silent, a guardian of dreams and peace. He was not alone here. He was part of something greater, a vast, quiet world that held him tenderly. The desert, the stars, the night air, they were all companions on this journey toward rest. And in their company, Naren felt safe, calm, and free. The night deepened around Naren, folding him further into the soft embrace of the desert. The air grew cooler, yet it was a kind of coolness that soothed rather than chilled, like the touch of a soft cloth brushing over the skin. He felt the steady pulse of the earth beneath him, the slow heartbeat of sand and stone that had endured through countless ages. Above, the stars shimmered faintly, their light steady and serene. Naren imagined their glow as threads of silver weaving through the darkness, connecting the sky to the land, the past to the present. Each star seemed to hold a quiet story, a whisper of ancient times and forgotten dreams. He listened to these silent stories, letting them wash over him like a gentle wave. The desert around him was alive with subtle movement. A breeze stirred the dry grasses, rustling leaves softly in its passage. The distant call of a night bird echoed faintly, a single note carried on the wind. These sounds were delicate, almost like a lullaby composed by the earth itself, inviting Naren to surrender to the stillness. His body relaxed completely, every muscle loosening as if melting into the warm sand beneath him. The earth cradled him tenderly, offering steady support without resistance or expectation. He felt his breath slow, deepening into a calm rhythm that matched the gentle sway of the desert night. Naren's thoughts drifted like soft clouds, slow and light, passing without weight or urgency. He pictured the Nile once more, its waters flowing with steady grace through lush green banks. He imagined dipping his hand into the cool stream, feeling the gentle flow slip through his fingers. The river carried away worries and brought a sense of renewal. A promise of calm carried on its surface. The Sphinx stood nearby, its great stone form a silent guardian watching over the land and the night. Naren felt the monument's presence as a protective shield, a timeless sentinel holding space for all who sought refuge beneath its shadow. There was no need for words here. The Sphinx's quiet strength spoke volumes through its stillness. He allowed himself to sink deeper into this place of peace, releasing any lingering tension or thought. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft shawl, comforting and warm. His breath was slow and even, each inhale bringing calm, each exhale releasing all that no longer served him. The stars above shifted slowly, their paths traced across the sky in an eternal dance. Naren imagined their journey as a gentle guide, a reminder that all things move in their own time, in their own rhythm. There was no need to rush, no need to strive. Here, in the shadow of the Sphinx, time was fluid and kind. He pictured the soft glow of dawn far away, a promise just beyond the horizon. But for now, the night held him completely, a vast and gentle space where he could rest without worry or need. The desert's quiet song filled him with a deep sense of belonging, a feeling that he was exactly where he was meant to be. His thoughts grew quieter still, merging with the softness of the night. He felt himself drifting toward sleep, not with force or hurry, but with gentle ease. The desert held him tenderly, a cradle woven from sand, stone, and sky. And as the night continued its endless watch, Naren surrendered fully to rest, to peace, to the soft and healing silence that carried him gently into dreams. The night air lingered softly, carrying a subtle warmth that comforted Naren like a familiar embrace. The desert stretched around him in silent vastness, its shape softened by moonlight, dunes rolling gently like quiet waves frozen in time. He breathed in the cool stillness, feeling it settle deep into his bones, unburdening him from the weight of the day. Above, the stars kept their steady vigil, their pinpoints of light shimmering like distant lanterns hung across an infinite sky. Naren watched as constellations shifted imperceptibly, tracing their ancient paths with timeless patience. He imagined each star a gentle eye watching over the world, a guardian of dreams and peace. His body lay heavy yet untroubled, sinking into the warm embrace of the sand. Each muscle relaxed fully, and the steady rhythm of his breathing echoed the pulse of the earth beneath him. He felt wrapped in softness, as if the desert itself had woven a cloak of tranquility to shield him from worry or unrest. The Sphinx stood sentinel nearby, a timeless figure carved by hands long gone. Its stone face held no judgment, only calm and quiet strength. Naren felt a profound connection to this monument, a silent companion that had witnessed countless nights like this, countless souls resting beneath its shadow. Its presence was a comfort, a reminder that some things endure beyond the noise of life. He let his thoughts drift like sand on a gentle breeze, soft and aimless. Images floated by, the slow flow of the Nile under a golden sun, the rustle of palms along the riverbank, the gentle flicker of fireflies in a quiet garden. These scenes were peaceful, warm, filled with light and softness, carrying no urgency or demand. The desert around him breathed in rhythm with his own breath, the soft sigh of wind over the dunes, the faint rustle of grasses, the distant cry of an owl blended into a lullaby of nature. Naren felt carried by this song, soothed by its gentle cadence, as if the whole world was singing him to rest. His eyelids grew heavy, the line between waking and sleeping thinning like morning mist. He embraced the gradual surrender, the slow unfolding of sleep's gentle arms around him. In this moment, nothing existed but the vast night, the steady stars, the desert's endless calm. He pictured the horizon glowing faintly with the first promise of dawn, a soft light waiting patiently beyond the edge of the world. But for now, the night was his sanctuary, a place where time paused and worries dissolved. The Sphinx watched over him still, its presence a steadfast shield in the quiet darkness. Naren's breath deepened once more, a slow and steady tide that carried him further into peace. The desert night held him gently, a cradle of stone, sand, and sky. He surrendered fully to rest, knowing that in this stillness he was safe, he was whole, and he was free. The desert night stretched on, a vast and silent ocean beneath the endless sky. Naren lay wrapped in its quiet embrace, feeling the gentle pulse of the earth beneath him. The cool air moved softly across his skin, carrying the faint scent of desert blossoms and warm stone. Above, the stars kept their steady watch, their light like tiny lanterns guiding the way through the darkness. He felt himself becoming one with the landscape, his breath syncing with the rhythm of the night. Each inhale brought the cool desert air deep into his lungs, filling him with calm and peace. Each exhale released any remaining tension, a slow and steady release that made space for rest. The Sphinx stood silent and still nearby, a guardian carved from ancient stone. Its form was both massive and serene, a testament to endurance and quiet strength. Naren imagined the hands that had sculpted it so long ago, the care and patience poured into every detail. The monument held the stories of countless years, whispered in the silence of the night. He thought of the many travelers who had rested here before him, seekers of wisdom and peace. They had come from far and wide, each drawn by the promise of the Sphinx's watchful presence. Naren felt connected to them, a thread in the tapestry of those who had found solace in this timeless place. The stars above traced their paths slowly across the sky, constellations moving with ancient grace. He pictured Orion's belt, the lion, the scaled symbols of balance and strength. Their light was steady and calm, a reminder that even in darkness there was order and peace. Naren's thoughts drifted like soft clouds on a gentle breeze. He did not chase them or hold on to any, allowing each one to pass quietly. Images came and went, trippling waters, soft grasses, distant mountains bathed in moonlight. Each image was a gentle caress, a whisper of serenity. The desert around him was alive with subtle sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a night bird, the soft whisper of wind over sand. These sounds wove together into a lullaby of nature, a song of stillness and rest. Naren felt himself carried by this melody, soothed and cradled by its gentle rhythm. His body sank deeper into the warm sand, every muscle relaxing fully. The earth beneath him was solid and steady, a silent support that required no effort or attention. He breathed slowly, deeply, each breath a thread connecting him to the vast calm of the desert night. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft silver light across the dunes. Its glow softened the sharp edges of the landscape, turning rough stone into gentle curves, harsh shadows into smooth pools of darkness. Naren felt the moon's quiet presence like a guardian's hand resting lightly on his shoulder. He imagined the Nile flowing nearby, its waters cool and clear. He pictured dipping his fingers into the gentle current, feeling the smoothness of the river stones beneath. The river carried stories of life and renewal, its steady flow a symbol of persistence and peace. Naren's thoughts grew quieter, more distant. He felt himself drifting closer to sleep, the border between waking and dreaming softening like mist. He did not resist this gentle pull, but surrendered to it, allowing himself to be carried deeper into rest. The desert night embraced him fully, a vast and tender space where time lost its meaning. The stars continued their watch, steady and patient, their light a comforting presence in the darkness. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face serene and unchanging, a symbol of endurance and calm. Naren closed his eyes completely, feeling the weight of the world fall away. His breath was slow and even, a steady rhythm matching the pulse of the earth. The desert held him gently, a cradle woven from sand, stone, and sky. And as sleep came softly, wrapping him in its quiet arms, Naren knew he was safe, at peace, and deeply rested. The desert night remained quiet and still, a vast expanse wrapped in shadows and silver light. Naren lay resting beneath the sky, the soft sand cradling his body with gentle warmth. Each breath he took was deep and slow, drawing in the cool night air and releasing any lingering tension. The rhythm of his breathing matched the slow pulse of the earth beneath him, steady and calm. Above, the stars shone like distant lanterns scattered across the heavens. Their light was soft and steady, a quiet glow that reached across time and space. Naren imagined the stories held within each star, tales of ancient travelers and forgotten dreams, whispered softly into the night. These stories surrounded him like a gentle breeze, carrying comfort and peace. The Sphinx stood watch nearby, its massive stone form a silent sentinel in the desert. Its face was calm and serene, carved with care and patience by hands long gone. Naren felt the presence of this ancient guardian as a source of quiet strength, a steady anchor in the vastness of the night. The monument seemed to breathe with the desert itself, timeless and enduring. Around him, the desert whispered with soft sounds, the rustle of dry grasses, the distant call of a night bird, the gentle movement of sand carried by the breeze. These sounds blended into a soothing melody, a lullaby woven by nature to guide the restless toward rest. Naren felt himself carried by this song, floating gently on its waves. His thoughts drifted slowly, light as feathers on the wind. He did not try to hold on to any, allowing each one to fade softly into the background. Images came and went: flowing water, gentle hills, open skies, each one a quiet caress, a tender touch of peace. These visions filled him with warmth, a soft glow in the cool night. The earth beneath him was solid and steady, a quiet foundation supporting his body and spirit. Naren felt grounded, connected to the land in a way that was both calming and freeing. He breathed deeply, each inhalation bringing in the stillness of the desert night, each exhalation releasing any trace of worry or strain. The moon cast a silver light across the landscape, softening the edges of the dunes and turning the shadows into pools of gentle darkness. Its glow was like a whisper, a silent companion to the night's quiet song. Naren imagined the moon's light as a soft hand, resting lightly on his skin, filling him with calm. He pictured the Nile flowing nearby, its waters smooth and cool. He imagined the river's gentle current, carrying leaves and petals downstream, a slow and steady journey, walked toward a place of peace. The river's flow was a reminder that life moves forward with quiet persistence, always changing, yet always constant. Naren's thoughts grew quieter still, drifting toward the edge of sleep. He felt the gentle pull of rest, a soft invitation to surrender to the night's embrace. He did not resist, but allowed himself to be carried deeper into calm and quiet. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft shawl, a protective cloak woven from silence and stars. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face serene and steady, a symbol of endurance and peace. Naren felt safe here, held in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed even more, deep and even, matching the rhythm of the earth. The world around him faded softly, leaving only the vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep came gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light and calm. The desert's calm deepened as the night stretched on, a vast expanse of quiet beneath the endless sky. Naren felt himself sinking further into the soft embrace of the sand, each breath slow and full, carrying with it the cool freshness of the evening air. The warmth of the earth beneath him was steady and reassuring, a silent support in the vast stillness. Above, the stars twinkled gently, their light like distant candles flickering in the darkness. Naren imagined the countless stories they held, ancient tales whispered across time and space, stories of those who had walked these sands long ago. Their soft glow wove a blanket of light across the heavens, a comforting presence in the quiet night. The Sphinx remained silent nearby, its stone face calm and steady. Naren pictured the hands that had carved it centuries before, the care poured into each line and curve. The monument stood as a symbol of endurance and patience, watching over the desert and all who sought rest within its shadow. Its presence was a silent promise of safety and peace. Around him, the desert murmured with soft sounds, the faint rustle of grasses, the distant call of a night bird, the gentle shifting of sand carried by a slow breeze. These sounds blended into a soothing symphony, a lullaby of the earth that invited calm and rest. Naren felt himself drifting gently with this melody, carried on its quiet waves. His thoughts floated softly, light and free. He did not grasp at them, but let them pass like clouds on a slow wind. Images came and went, rolling dunes bathed in moonlight, the slow flow of a river, the delicate dance of fireflies in a dark garden. Each image was a tender touch, a soft caress on the skin of his mind. The earth beneath him was a firm and steady foundation, grounding him in the present moment. Naren felt connected to the desert in a deep and peaceful way, as if the land itself were breathing alongside him. His breath deepened, slow and steady, in tune with the rhythm of the night. The moon shone softly, casting a pale silver glow across the landscape. Its light softened the edges of the dunes and turned the shadows into gentle pools of darkness. Naren imagined the moon's light as a gentle hand, resting lightly on his shoulder, filling him with calm and warmth. He pictured the Nile flowing peacefully nearby, its waters cool and clear. He imagined dipping his fingers into the gentle current, feeling the smoothness of the river stones beneath the surface. The river's steady flow was a reminder of the quiet persistence of life, always moving forward with gentle grace. Naren's thoughts grew quieter still, fading into the soft background of the night. He felt the gentle pull of sleep, a tender invitation to surrender to the calm. He welcomed this invitation, letting go of any remaining tension or worry. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft, protective cloak. The stars continued their silent watch, their lights steady and comforting. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face a symbol of endurance and calm. Naren felt safe and held, cradled in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed even further, deep and even, matching the slow rhythm of the earth. The world around him soft and faded, leaving only the vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep came gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light, peace, and calm. The night deepened, enfolding Naren in its endless calm. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint fragrance of desert blooms and warm stone. He lay quietly in the soft sand, feeling the steady pulse of the earth beneath him, a silent heartbeat that matched the slow rhythm of his breath. Above, the stars gleamed softly, their light steady and serene. Naren imagined their glow as gentle beacons, scattered across the vast sky like tiny lanterns guiding him deeper into rest. Each star seemed to hold a story, a quiet memory of times long past, whispered gently across the ages. The Sphinx stood nearby, a timeless guardian carved from ancient stone. Its serene face looked out over the desert, watching silently through countless nights. Naren felt the presence of the monument as a calm and steady companion, a symbol of endurance and quiet strength. The Sphinx's watchful gaze offered comfort, a promise of safety beneath the vast sky. The desert whispered softly around him, the rustle of dry grasses in the breeze, the distant call of a night bird, the gentle movement of sand shifting with the wind. These sounds blended into a soothing lullaby, a song of stillness and peace. Naren felt carried by this melody, floating gently on its quiet waves. His thoughts drifted slowly, light and free. He did not try to grasp or hold on to any of them, letting each one pass like clouds on a gentle breeze. Images came and went, rolling dunes bathed in moonlight, a calm river flowing through lush banks, the flicker of fireflies in a quiet garden. Each image was a tender touch, a soft caress on the skin of his mind. The earth beneath him was steady and firm, grounding him in the present moment. Naren felt a deep connection to the land, as if the desert itself were breathing alongside him. His breath deepened, slow and even, flowing in harmony with the rhythm of the night. The moon cast a pale silver light across the landscape, softening the edges of the dunes and turning shadows into gentle pools of darkness. Naren imagined the moon's glow as a gentle hand resting lightly on his skin, filling him with warmth and calm. He pictured the Nile flowing peacefully nearby, its waters cool and clear. He imagined dipping his fingers into the gentle current, feeling the smoothness of the river stones beneath. The river's steady flow was a reminder of life's quiet persistence, always moving forward with gentle grace. Naren's thoughts grew quieter still, fading into the soft background of the night. He felt the gentle pull of sleep, a tender invitation to surrender to the calm. He welcomed this invitation, letting go of any lingering tension or worry. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft, protective cloak. The stars continued their silent watch, their lights steady and comforting. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face a symbol of endurance and peace. Naren felt safe and held, cradled in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed further, deep and steady, matching the rhythm of the earth beneath him. The world around him soft and faded, leaving only vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep came gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light, peace, and calm. The night air remained soft and still, wrapping Naren in a quiet embrace. The desert stretched endlessly around him, its gentle curves and shadows soft by the moon's tender glow. He felt the warmth of the sand beneath him, steady and comforting, like a silent guardian holding him close. Above, the stars continued their steady watch, their light flickering gently in the vastness of the sky. Naren imagined their glow as tiny beacons of calm, scattered across the heavens like scattered jewels. Each star seemed to tell a story, an ancient memory carried across time and space, whispered softly to those who would listen. The Sphinx stood nearby, its stone form a timeless sentinel in the desert. Its calm face held no words, only quiet strength and endurance. Naren felt the monument's presence as a comforting companion, a symbol of peace that had witnessed countless nights like this. The Sphinx's silent watch was a promise of safety beneath the wide, star-filled sky. The desert around him whispered softly, the rustle of grasses in the breeze, the distant call of a night bird, the gentle shifting of sand carried by the wind, all blended into a soothing lullaby. Naren felt himself carried by this melody, floating gently on its quiet waves, each sound a tender thread woven into the fabric of the night. His thoughts drifted slowly, light and free, like leaves floating on a gentle stream. He did not hold on to any, letting them pass softly into the background. Images came and went, rolling dunes bathed in moonlight, the slow flow of the Nile, the flicker of fireflies in a quiet garden. Each image was a gentle touch, a soft caress on the skin of his mind. The earth beneath him was steady and firm, grounding him in the present moment. Naren felt deeply connected to the land, as if the desert itself breathed alongside him. His breath deepened, slow and even, flowing in harmony with the rhythm of the night. The moon cast a pale silver light across the landscape, softening the edges of the dunes and turning shadows into gentle pools of darkness. Naren imagined the moon's glow as a gentle hand resting lightly on his skin, filling him with warmth and calm. He pictured the Nile flowing peacefully nearby, its waters cool and clear. He imagined dipping his fingers into the gentle current, feeling the smoothness of the river stones beneath. The river's steady flow was a reminder of life's quiet persistence, always moving forward with gentle grace. Naren's thoughts grew quieter still, fading into the soft background of the night. He felt the gentle pull of sleep, a tender invitation to surrender to the calm. He welcomed this invitation, letting go of any lingering tension or worry. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft, protective cloak. The stars continued their silent watch, their light steady and comforting. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face a symbol of endurance and peace. Naren felt safe and held, cradled in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed further, deep and steady, matching the rhythm of the earth beneath him. The world around him softened and faded, leaving only vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep came gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light, peace, and calm. Night stretched endlessly, a vast canvas painted in soft shadows and moonlight. Naren lay quietly, his body sinking into the warm sand, the earth beneath him steady and calm. The air was cool and gentle, carrying the faint scent of desert herbs and night-blooming flowers. Each breath he took was slow and deep, drawing the calm night into his lungs and releasing any remaining tension. Above, the stars glittered softly, their light steady and serene. Naren imagined each star as a quiet guardian, watching over the desert and the lives it held. Their gentle glow wove a tapestry of light across the sky, a silent lullaby for all who rested beneath them. The Sphinx stood nearby, its great stone form a timeless sentinel. Its face was calm and steady, carved with care and patience long ago. Naren felt the presence of this ancient guardian as a soothing balm, a reminder of endurance and quiet strength. The monument seemed to breathe with the desert, a living part of the night. Around him, the desert whispered with soft sounds, the rustle of dry grasses, the distant call of an owl, the gentle movement of sand carried by the breeze. These sounds blended into a soothing melody, a song of stillness and peace. Naren felt himself carried by this music, floating gently on its quiet waves. His thoughts drifted like clouds, slow and light. He did not chase them, but let them float freely across the vast sky of his mind. Images appeared softly, rolling dunes bathed in moonlight, a gentle river flowing through lush banks, the delicate dance of fireflies in a dark garden. Each image was a tender touch, a soft caress of calm. The earth beneath him was firm and steady, grounding him in the present moment. Naren felt deeply connected to the desert, as if the land itself were breathing alongside him. His breath deepened, slow and even, in harmony with the rhythm of the night. The moon cast a silver glow across the landscape, softening the edges of the dunes and turning shadows into gentle pools of darkness. Naren imagined the moon's light as a gentle hand resting on his skin, filling him with warmth and peace. He pictured the Nile flowing nearby, its waters cool and clear. He imagined dipping his fingers into the gentle current, feeling the smoothness of the river stones beneath. The river's steady flow was a reminder of life's quiet persistence, moving forward with gentle grace. Naren's thoughts grew quieter, fading into the soft background of the night. He felt the gentle pull of sleep, a tender invitation to surrender to the calm. He welcomed this invitation, letting go of any lingering tension or worry. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft, protective cloak. The stars continued their silent watch, their light steady and comforting. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face a symbol of endurance and peace. Naren felt safe and held, cradled in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed further, deep and steady, matching the rhythm of the earth beneath him. The world around him soft and faded, leaving only vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep came gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light, peace, and calm. The night sky above stretched endlessly, a deep canvas sprinkled with stars, each one glowing softly with its own gentle light. Naren lay still beneath this vast expanse, the desert's warmth and stillness wrapping him like a soft blanket. The earth beneath him was steady and reassuring, a silent anchor holding him safely in place. The cool desert air whispered softly across his skin, carrying the faint scent of night-blooming flowers and warm stone. It moved with a tender grace, as if the desert itself was breathing alongside him. Each breath he took was slow and deep, drawing peace into his lungs and releasing all remaining tension. The Sphinx stood silently nearby, its massive form carved from ancient stone, timeless and unchanging. Naren felt its presence as a steady companion, a symbol of quiet strength and endurance. The monument's calm gaze seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries, watching over the land and all who found rest beneath its shadow. Around him, the desert sang a gentle song, a soft rustle of dry grasses, the distant call of an owl, the shifting of sand carried lightly on the breeze. These sounds blended into a soothing lullaby, a melody of stillness and calm. Naren allowed himself to be carried on this gentle wave, feeling the music soothe his mind and body. His thoughts floated slowly, light and free, like clouds drifting across the sky. He did not hold on to any, but let them pass naturally, fading softly into the background. Images came and went, rolling dunes, glowing under the moonlight, the steady flow of the Nile, the gentle flicker of fireflies in a quiet garden. Each image was a tender touch, a quiet invitation to rest. The earth beneath him was firm and steady, grounding him in the present moment. Naren felt deeply connected to the desert, as if the land itself were breathing in harmony with his own breath. His breathing deepened, becoming slow and even, matching the rhythm of the night. The moon cast a soft silver light across the landscape, smoothing the edges of the dunes and turning shadows into gentle pools of darkness. Naren imagined the moon's glow as a soft hand resting lightly on his skin, filling him with warmth and serenity. He pictured the Nile flowing gently nearby, its waters cool and clear. He imagined dipping his fingers into the river's gentle current, feeling the smooth stones beneath the surface. The river's steady flow reminded him of life's quiet persistence, moving forward with gentle grace and patience. Naren's thoughts grew quieter still, fading into the soft background of the night. He felt the gentle pull of sleep, a tender invitation to surrender fully to the calm. He welcomed this invitation, releasing any lingering worries or tension. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft, protective cloak. The stars continued their silent vigil, their light steady and comforting. The Sphinx remained nearby, its stone face a symbol of endurance and peace. Naren felt safe and cradled in the arms of the ancient land. His breath slowed further, deep and steady, syncing perfectly with the steady rhythm of the earth beneath him. The world around him softened and faded, leaving only vast quiet and the gentle pulse of life. Sleep arrived gently, a soft wave folding over him, carrying him into dreams filled with light, peace, and calm. The hours moved slowly through the stillness, like a silent stream flowing across the sands. Naren rested without effort, his body fully relaxed, and his breath as calm as the night air around him. He felt as though he were no longer lying on the ground, but gently floating, supported by something larger than himself, something ancient and kind. The stars overhead shone with a soft and unwavering glow. Their light reached down with quiet tenderness, illuminating the curves of the dunes and the gentle slope of the land. Naren imagined the stars as old friends, watching over him, offering their calm presence as a shield against all noise, all worry. The wind moved again, slow and hushed, brushing across his skin like silk. It carried the dry scent of stone, the subtle sweetness of herbs that grew in the sand, and the faint memory of rain that once fell in distant valleys. That wind whispered stories older than time, tales of caravans and forgotten cities, of people who once stood where he now lay, looking to the same sky for comfort and guidance. Beside him, the Sphinx stood firm, its face still and wise, eyes fixed on a horizon that never tired. Its shadow had lengthened and softened through the night, wrapping Naren like a great wing. He imagined the Sphinx speaking, not in words, but in presence, offering him protection, patience, and rest. It did not need to speak to be understood. The desert continued to hum its low and gentle music, a song without beginning or end. The chirp of a hidden insect, the slow drag of sand along stone, and the occasional soft flutter of wings passed through the silence like notes in a dream. Naren listened without effort, letting the sound melt into his thoughts, until they were indistinguishable from one another. He thought once again of the Nile, of its long and graceful path winding across the land like a sleeping serpent. He pictured the water gliding over rocks, around reeds and lotus blossoms. He imagined stepping into its cool embrace, letting the water carry him slowly, weightlessly, as if through time itself. The feeling was freeing, gentle, and eternal. The sky remained dark, but its depth was soothing, like a velvet blanket overhead. Naren felt no need to look beyond it, no desire to move or ask questions. Everything he needed was here in this moment, this breath, this stretch of sand and shadow. The night was not empty. It was full of peace, full of quiet strength. His limbs were heavy, not with burden, but with deep relaxation. Even his fingers rested still, perfectly placed by gravity's hand. The tension that had once visited his shoulders and legs had long since melted away, drawn out by the stillness of the desert and the softness of the night. He was no longer separate from the land. He was part of it, part of its story. Naren felt a quiet sense of belonging, not to a place, but to the stillness itself. He belonged to the quiet. He belonged to the sky and the stones, to the breeze and the river's memory. In this space, nothing was needed, nothing was missing. There was only being, only presence, only peace. And in that peace, he allowed himself to drift, not to escape, but to rest, not to vanish, but to settle deeper into the calm that surrounded him like water. Each breath became smaller, lighter, as if he were breathing in the silence itself. He no longer had to try. Sleep was already here, waiting only for him to notice. The desert night held its stillness like a sacred breath, never rushed, never strained. Naren remained motionless, his body a quiet echo of the sand beneath him, his mind adrift on the soft current of thoughtless calm. The wind had slowed to a whisper, as if the earth itself was sleeping, and he was simply one more dream resting beneath the stars. The Sphinx, with its watchful gaze and unmoving form, seemed almost alive in its silence. It had stood through countless nights like this one, unchanged and unbothered by the passing of time. Naren felt honored to lie within its shadow, as if he had been invited to rest in the very heart of peace itself. The stars glimmered gently above, never flickering in fear or doubt. They offered their steady light like open hands, asking for nothing and expecting nothing in return. Naren could sense their patience, their ancient knowing. In their soft presence, he felt no need to ask questions or seek meaning. Everything was simple here. Everything simply was. He imagined a small stream hidden beneath the sand, flowing unseen in a bed carved by centuries. It carried cool water slowly through the rocks, winding gently, unconcerned with speed or destination. That image stayed with him, a symbol of grace and motion, of life that flows without force. The sounds of the desert were few but perfect. A single insect chirped, then paused. A leaf somewhere turned in the breeze, its movement so delicate it barely registered. The wind stirred again, no louder than breath, bringing with it the scent of old earth and night blossoms. These sensations layered one atop the other, soft and seamless, until Naren could no longer tell where one ended and another began. His body had become weightless, not from lifting, but from release. There was no resistance in his muscles, no holding or bracing. He had let go, not with effort, but with permission. He was simply being part of the great stillness around him, wrapped in its warmth and welcomed like an old friend returning home. He thought again of fireflies, their glow quiet and kind, flickering not to dazzle but to guide. He pictured them dancing near a stream, rising from the grass like little lanterns made of breath and light. Their movement was gentle, their rhythm In his mind, they formed soft shapes in the air, circles and spirals and slow drifting trails. The moon was beginning its quiet descent toward the edge of the world, lowering its glow without pride or hesitation. Its light had touched everything, stone, sand, skin, and left it calmer than before. Naren felt the moon's retreat, not as loss, but as trust. It knew the night would continue holding him. The Sphinx remained, its great form a presence, both physical and spiritual. Naren felt as though it had accepted him into its care, offering no commands, only peace. He imagined it whispering in its own language of stone and wind, a language that needed no words to be understood. The message was simple: rest, stay, be. And Naren did. He stayed. He rested. He became one with the silence, one with the stillness, one with the eternal rhythm of the land. The desert breathed around him, the sky leaned close, and within all of it, he slept not as escape, but as reunion, as a return to something whole and true and quietly eternal. The hours unfolded without hurry, passing like shadows on ancient stone. Naren felt as though time itself had loosened its grip. allowing the world to drift freely in the soft space between one breath and the next. He no longer wondered what hour it was or how far the sun had moved behind the horizon. In this stillness, there was no need for measurement. There was only the moment, long and quiet and kind. The desert cradled him in its warmth, its sand soft beneath his back, its air cool and clean. He could feel the slow shift of heat that came with the deep night, not sudden but smooth, like silk sliding over smooth stone. The dunes around him were shadows now, their curves gentle, their presence silent. Each one felt like a wave paused in time, holding its shape in a sea of moonlight. The stars continued to shine, steady and bright, painting quiet trails across the sky. Their light was not loud or sharp, but soft and unwavering, a reminder that something vast and eternal hovered just above. Naren imagined the sky as a great ocean, and he was floating beneath it, safe and still. The stars above were not distant, they were close, near enough to touch if he simply reached out with his heart. The Sphinx loomed close, unmoving but never cold. Its silence had a weight that was not heavy but grounding. Naren felt that it saw him, not with eyes, but with presence. It knew he was here, resting within its gaze, and it welcomed him. It had seen wanderers and dreamers, scholars and kings, all passing through the same night, all wrapped in the same need for peace. He thought again of the Nile. In his mind, the water shimmered under moonlight, its surface broken only by the slow ripple of fish or the gentle dip of a bird's wing. He saw reeds swaying at its edge, lotus flowers opening in the dark. That river was not just water, it was memory. It carried the stories of thousands, of sunrises and footpaths, of songs sung in the early light and secrets whispered beneath the stars. Naren let these images flow through him. He did not grasp at them. They moved in and out of his thoughts like soft tides, gentle and slow. Each one brought with it a breath of peace, a wave of calm, a deeper sinking into rest. He felt himself falling not downward, but inward, into the quietest part of himself, the part untouched by time or worry. He imagined his breath as the wind, moving softly over dunes, lifting grains of sand and laying them gently down again. With each breath, his body grew heavier, not with burden, but with release. He was rooted now, like a tree resting through the night, like stone worn smooth by time, like the Sphinx itself, firm and free of all need to move. No sound startled him. Even the faintest rustle seemed part of the night's gentle design. An owl called once, then was silent. The breeze sighed along the stones, then paused. Every sound was a comfort, a thread in the fabric of stillness that wrapped around him. There was no fear here, no noise loud enough to disturb the hush that had settled over his heart. The sky began to shift slightly, a subtle deepening of shadow near the horizon. The stars still held their place, and the Sphinx still stood tall, but there was a sense that the night was preparing to pass the world gently into morning. Naren did not resist. He felt no need to rise or speak. The quiet had claimed him, and he was content to remain within it for as long as it would hold him. He did not dream of noise or light. He dreamed of softness, of space, of endless skies and warm stone. He dreamed of rivers that never rushed and winds that always knew where to go. He dreamed of the Sphinx speaking, not in words but in stillness, telling him everything he needed to know without ever breaking the silence. And so, under the watchful eyes of the stars, in the soft cradle of sand and sky, Naren rested, not for a moment, not for an hour, but for as long as peace wished to hold him. The hush of the desert remained unbroken as the night lingered on, heavy with stillness, yet light with grace. Naren lay in the same quiet posture, his limbs gently relaxed, his breath soft and smooth. Each inhale seemed to carry in the very peace of the stars, and each exhale released the final traces of thought and effort. He was no longer thinking, only being present without weight, present without need. The sky stretched above him in a vast and endless canvas, the stars woven into its dark blue like threads of soft silver. No constellation demanded attention, no star pulsed brighter than the rest. It was a ceiling of quiet light, perfectly balanced, perfectly calm. Naren's gaze drifted lazily from one cluster to another, not searching, not wondering, only moving in slow, aimless patterns, like a leaf floating across water. The Sphinx continued to watch, tall and unmoving in its place. Its shadow had shifted slightly with the moon's path, but its presence remained solid and unchanged. Naren felt that this great figure had become more than a monument. It was a companion, a guardian, a wordless friend, offering stillness instead of conversation. Its silence was not cold, but filled with care, filled with understanding. There was nothing to explain here. There was only acceptance. The desert breeze began to stir again, as gently as before, bringing with it a scent Naren could not quite place. It was dry and sweet, like ancient stone warmed by the sun, mixed with something green and distant, a scent of a plant that survived through patience. He imagined a single sprig of green growing near a rock, its leaves soft and pale in the moonlight, its scent reaching him from some secret place he could not see. He listened closely to the sounds around him, but they were not many. A soft skitter of movement in the sand, a faint whir of wings somewhere overhead, the low hum of the wind passing through dry reeds. All of it seemed to fall in perfect time, as though the desert were breathing in rhythm with his own chest. There was no beginning to the sounds, no end, only the gentle, endless now. His body felt weightless and warm, as if the sand had molded itself to him perfectly. There was no pressure on his skin, no strain in his limbs. Every muscle had let go. His shoulders were loose, his arms still, his legs gently resting in place. His chest rose and fell like a slow tide, and he realized that he could not remember the last time he had felt this light. He thought of the Nile again, of standing at its edge, toes dipped into its coolness, watching it flow silently under the moon. The current was not fast, but it was steady, eternal. He pictured himself stepping into it, not to cross, not to swim, but simply to float. The water would carry him, gently and without effort, to a place where he would not need to wake until morning came with gold upon its fingers. The moon above him was beginning to fade, but its light remained. It did not rush to disappear, but softened gradually, as if bowing quietly before the arrival of dawn. Naren welcomed the change. He did not need the moon to stay. He was not afraid of the morning, but he was grateful for the gift the moon had given, hours of uninterrupted calm, watched over by the Sphinx and the stars. Stillness remained, even as light slowly shifted across the dunes. There was no urgency in the change, no harshness. Even time moved gently here, careful not to disturb those who lay resting. Naren felt that the night, the stars, the moon, and the sky had agreed to one shared purpose: to keep him calm, to hold him safe, to offer him rest. The hours unfolded without hurry, passing like shadows on ancient stone. Naren felt as though time itself had loosened its grip, allowing the world to drift freely in the soft space between one breath and the next. He no longer wondered what hour it was or how far the sun had moved behind the horizon. In this stillness, there was no need for measurement. There was only the moment, long and quiet and kind. The desert cradled him in its warmth, its sand soft beneath his back, its air cool and clean. He could feel the slow shift of heat that came with the deep night, not sudden but smooth, like silk sliding over smooth stone. The dunes around him were shadows now, their curves gentle, their presence silent. Each one felt like a wave paused in time, holding its shape in a sea of moonlight. The stars continued to shine, steady and bright, painting quiet trails across the sky. Their light was not loud or sharp, but soft and unwavering, a reminder that something vast and eternal hovered just above. Naren imagined the sky as a great ocean, and he was floating beneath it, safe and still. The stars above were not distant. They were close, near enough to touch if he simply reached out with his heart. The Sphinx loomed close, unmoving but never cold. Its silence had a weight that was not heavy but grounding. Naren felt that it saw him, not with eyes, but with presence. It knew he was here, resting within its gaze, and it welcomed him. It had seen wanderers and dreamers, scholars and kings, all passing through the same night, all wrapped in the same need for peace. He thought again of the Nile. In his mind, the water shimmered under moonlight, its surface broken only by the slow ripple of fish or the gentle dip of a bird S-wing. He saw reeds swaying at its edge, lotus flowers opening in the dark. That river was not just water, it was memory. It carried the stories of thousands, of sunrises and footpaths, of songs sung in the early light and secrets whispered beneath the stars. Naren let these images flow through him. He did not grasp at them. They moved in and out of his thoughts like soft tides, gentle and slow. Each one brought with it a breath of peace, a wave of calm, a deeper sinking into rest. He felt himself falling not downward, but inward, into the quietest part of himself, the part untouched by time or worry. He imagined his breath as the wind, moving softly over dunes, lifting grains of sand and laying them gently down again. With each breath, his body grew heavier, not with burden, but with release. He was rooted now, like a tree resting through the night, like stone worn smooth by time, like the Sphinx itself, firm and free of all need to move. No sound startled him. Even the faintest rustle seemed part of the night's gentle design. An owl called once, then was silent. The breeze sighed along the stones, then paused. Every sound was a comfort, a thread in the fabric of stillness that wrapped around him. There was no fear here, no noise loud enough to disturb the hush that had settled over his heart. The sky began to shift slightly, a subtle deepening of shadow near the horizon. The stars still held their place, and the Sphinx still stood tall, but there was a sense that the night was preparing to pass the world gently into morning. Naren did not resist. He felt no need to rise or speak. The quiet had claimed him, and he was content to remain within it for as long as it would hold him. He did not dream of noise or light. He dreamed of softness, of space, of endless skies and warm stone. He dreamed of rivers that never rushed and winds that always knew where to go. He dreamed of the Sphinx speaking, not in words but in stillness, telling him everything he needed to know without ever breaking the silence. And so, under the watchful eyes of the stars, in the soft cradle of sand and sky, Naren rested, not for a moment, not for an hour, but for as long as peace wished to hold him. The hush of the desert remained unbroken as the night lingered on, heavy with stillness, yet light with grace. Naren lay in the same quiet posture, his limbs gently relaxed, his breath soft and smooth. Each inhale seemed to carry in the very peace of the stars, and each exhale released the final traces of thought and effort. He was no longer thinking, only being present without weight, present without need. The sky stretched above him in a vast and endless canvas, the stars woven into its dark blue like threads of soft silver. No constellation demanded attention, no star pulsed brighter than the rest. It was a ceiling of quiet light, perfectly balanced, perfectly calm. Naren's gaze drifted lazily from one cluster to another, not searching, not wondering, only moving in slow, aimless patterns, like a leaf floating across water. The Sphinx continued to watch, tall and unmoving in its place. Its shadow had shifted slightly with the moon's path, but its presence remained solid and unchanged. Naren felt that this great figure had become more than a monument. It was a companion, a guardian, a wordless friend, offering stillness instead of conversation. Its silence was not cold, but filled with care, filled with understanding. There was nothing to explain here. There was only acceptance. The desert breeze began to stir again, as gently as before, bringing with it a scent Naren could not quite place. It was dry and sweet, like ancient stone warmed by the sun, mixed with something green and distant, a scent of a plant that survived through patience. He imagined a single sprig of green growing near a rock, its leaves soft and pale in the moonlight, its scent reaching him from some secret place he could not see. He listened closely to the sounds around him, but they were not many. A soft skitter of movement in the sand, a faint whir of wings somewhere overhead, the low hum of the wind passing through dry reeds. All of it seemed to fall in perfect time, as though the desert were breathing in rhythm with his own chest. There was no beginning to the sounds, no end, only the gentle, endless now. His body felt weightless and warm, as if the sand had molded itself to him perfectly. There was no pressure on his skin, no strain in his limbs. Every muscle had let go. His shoulders were loose, his arms still, his legs gently resting in place. His chest rose and fell like a slow tide, and he realized that he could not remember the last time he had felt this light. He thought of the Nile again, of standing at its edge, toes dipped into its coolness, watching it flow silently under the moon. The current was not fast, but it was steady, eternal. He pictured himself stepping into it, not to cross, not to swim, but simply to float. The water would carry him, gently and without effort, to a place where he would not need to wake until morning came with gold upon its fingers. The moon above him was beginning to fade, but its light remained. It did not rush to disappear, but softened gradually, as if bowing quietly before the arrival of dawn. Naren welcomed the change. He did not need the moon to stay. He was not afraid of the morning, but he was grateful for the gift the moon had given, hours of uninterrupted calm, watched over by the Sphinx and the stars. Stillness remained, even as light slowly shifted across the dunes. There was no urgency in the change, no harshness. Even time moved gently here, careful not to disturb those who lay resting. Naren felt that the night, the stars, the moon, and the sky had agreed to one shared purpose: to keep him calm, to hold him safe, to offer him rest. The sky held its quiet as the edge of morning began to approach, slow and subtle. The stars still shone, their light not yet dimmed, each one a pinprick of soft fire in the fabric of the night. Naren remained still, untouched by the thought of time. His body felt as though it had merged with the sand beneath him, not buried, not bound, but blended. He was a part of the desert now, a breath within its endless exhale. The Sphinx, its form still shaded in the last light of the moon, had become less a statue and more a presence. Its stone features did not move, yet Naren felt its watchful peace remain unchanged. The great guardian stood not only for the world outside, but for the inner stillness that had overtaken his mind. The Sphinx had no need to speak. Its silence was enough. In it, Naren heard rest. A breeze passed again, warmer than before, but no less soft. It kissed the sand and stirred a few grains into quiet motion, nothing more than a sigh moving across the land. He imagined the breeze had traveled far, across dunes and valleys, over riverbanks and stones, only to find him here, resting in the Sphinx's shadow, ready to be touched with its final gift of the night. He imagined the air wrapping gently around him, not to wake him, but to hold him closer. The desert did not let go. It welcomed sleep. It welcomed silence. The wind knew not to rush. It only moved where it was needed, offering its softness like a feather tracing the outline of a dream. Naren's breath remained deep, effortless, in through his nose, smooth and cool, out through his mouth, soft and slow. The rhythm had become natural, rooted not in thought, but in trust. Each breath was another signal to his body that all was well, that he was safe, that nothing was expected of him now. Not thought, not action, only stillness. His thoughts, when they appeared, were not loud. They drifted in like petals falling gently on the surface of a quiet pond. He did not try to stop them. He simply let them come, and then let them go. One was a memory of laughter under olive trees. Another, the slow ripple of water as he watched a small bird wade through the river. Another still, a hand he once held, soft and warm in the golden light of afternoon. The past did not press on him here. The future did not call. There was only now, and now it was gentle. Now it was quiet. Now it was complete. He imagined a garden blooming in the coolness of the desert's night, hidden between stones and shaded corners. The petals were pale, glowing faintly under starlight, their shapes delicate and open. No one tended this garden. It tended itself, rising and falling with the moon's cycle, thriving in silence. Naren wandered through it in his mind, walking slowly, his fingers brushing lightly over leaves and blossoms that needed no names. The silence deepened again, not with emptiness, but with fullness. It was a silence that held everything: sound, scent, memory, breath, the kind of silence that wrapped itself around the soul and whispered, "You are enough. You have done enough. Now rest." And so he did, not with resistance, not with effort. Just as the stars gave their light without flame, and the desert gave its stillness without demand, Naren gave himself to sleep. Gently, slowly, without thought, he drifted again, deeper still, as if falling into the softest part of the world, where only breath and light remained. The edge of dawn crept nearer, not with brilliance or noise, but with a quiet shift in hue. The blackness of the sky began to soften, turning a deep velvet blue. Still, the stars remained visible, lingering as if they, too, were reluctant to leave the serenity of the night. Naren, unaware of time's gentle passage, remained at peace, his body fully surrendered, his spirit drifting in a sea of stillness. There was no urgency, no reason to rise, no voice calling him back to the world of thought and motion. The desert knew how to hold space for rest, how to stretch a single moment into forever, and Naren, held in that sacred stillness, continued to breathe slowly, deeply, his chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm with the quiet breath of the land. He could feel the warmth of the sand beneath him shift slightly, as the earth responded to the slow turn of the world. The air was changing too, just barely warmer, just faintly brighter, like a whisper promising morning without disturbing the grace of night. But Naren did not stir. He was deeper than thought, floating gently in a place where nothing was expected of him. The Sphinx, ever patient, stood as it had for thousands of nights. Its presence had become a part of his rest. He could feel it not as stone, but as stillness embodied a figure carved not only from rock, but from silence itself. It did not judge, it did not protect in a fierce way. It simply was, like the desert, like the stars, like the hush that filled the space between each breath. And still, he imagined the Nile. It was always there in his mind, wide and smooth, drifting slowly through reeds and along sandy shores. He saw it without trying to picture it. The images came like dreams without effort, a boat floating quietly, a heron standing at the edge, the gentle ripple of current as it moved across ancient waters. The river was a comfort not only because of its presence, but because of what it represented. Continuity, calmness, a path that moved without need for speed or destination. The quiet around him deepened again, as though the earth itself paused to listen to its own stillness. Even the sounds of wind and insects soft until they became a texture rather than a melody. He heard them not as sounds, but as part of the space, like the soft folds in a blanket that wrap the body and keep it close. His breath, now so natural it barely registered, had become part of that texture too. It was like the movement of sand over time, so slow, so effortless, that it was barely noticed except for the comfort it brought. He was not trying to rest. He was simply in it, embraced by it, no different from the dunes that lay still, from the moonlight that rested on stone, from the Sphinx whose presence had become his shelter. His thoughts remained slow and far away. They came like the breeze, gentle, passing, never pressing. He saw in his mind the flicker of lanterns in the distance, soft flames glowing behind linen curtains. He saw the curve of pottery in the sand, left from a forgotten time. He saw a child sleeping beside a mother's shawl, tucked in beside the rhythm of a desert campfire. None of these were his memories, but they lived quietly inside him now, adding to the peace. Nothing needed to be said. No story needed to be told. The world had given him stillness, and that was the only message he needed. No voice called him back. No footsteps echoed. There was only the night's slow breath and the desert's open arms. And in that silence, he remained anchored, cradled, complete. The horizon had begun to glow faintly, a quiet promise of light. But the desert held its calm, refusing to rush the dawn. Everything remained soft, unrushed, patient. Naren remained still, his body nestled into the contours of the sand, the warmth of the earth beneath him steady and gentle. His breath was so even, so quiet, it seemed he might vanish into the stillness altogether. Above him, the stars were slowly fading, not disappearing, but folding back into the sky like tiny lanterns dimmed by design. They had offered their watch through the night, and now, their duty done, they made room for the sun with grace. The Sphinx did not shift or stir, its stone form unchanged, unmoved by the coming day. It remained rooted, as eternal as the silence itself, a companion that asked nothing and gave everything. Naren felt no urgency in the changing light. There was no alarm, no signal to rise. The dawn did not arrive with sound, but with softness, touching the dunes with delicate fingers of pale gold and muted rose. Still wrapped in the comfort of night's embrace, he remained at rest, deeper now than even sleep, as if his spirit had joined the land in its ancient rhythm. In his mind, the desert was endless. He saw it not with his eyes, but with feeling, sensed through the air, through the space his breath moved through. It was wide and open and kind, not empty, but full of peace. The sand held centuries in silence. The rocks remembered voices long gone. The wind knew the paths of old caravans and the footsteps of kings, but now it moved gently, speaking only in hushed tones, disturbing nothing. He imagined a fig tree standing alone in the sand, its leaves still, its branches low and quiet. Beneath it, a small pool reflected the early sky. The water was clear and undisturbed, mirroring the glow of the world waking slowly. No one came to drink, no sound broke its surface. It was simply there, like him, like the desert, existing with quiet purpose. His breathing remained deep and slow. He was aware of it only when the breeze touched his lips, brushing gently as he exhaled, reminding him that he was still a part of this world, though he no longer felt separate from it. There was no line between his body and the sand. There was no boundary between his breath and the wind. Everything was one, joined in stillness, linked by peace. He pictured the Sphinx again, closer now. Its stone was warm, smooth, and strong. He imagined resting his hand on its base, feeling not just the texture, but the weight of years, the depth of time. It had stood here while the stars circled above. It had stood through laughter, through sorrow, through silence, through stories that no longer had names. It had watched and waited and welcomed, just as it did now. Its shadow stretched long across the sand, softening as the sky turned lighter. But even with the darkness fading, Naren felt no pull to move. The day could come, and it would do so gently. He would remain until the world called him naturally, softly, with no rush. There was no need to act. There was only the need to breathe, to rest, to exist in the deep hush that still held the desert. He was no longer dreaming. He was no longer waking. He was simply here, in a space where nothing was wrong and everything was allowed to be still. No thought rose. No worry waited. The silence had taken everything not needed, and left only calm behind. And in that calm, he lay, not held down, but held up by the land, by the air, by the endless kindness of a sky that had not yet let go of the night. The light grew slowly, like a secret being shared between the sky and the sand. Pale blues touched the edge of the horizon, soft and thin as silk. The stars, once brilliant companions, had faded almost entirely, their watch complete, but their presence lingered, not in sight, but in feeling. They remained as memory, as part of the silence that still blanketed the desert floor. Naren breathed steadily, the rhythm unchanged. His chest rose and fell like the quiet tide of a distant sea, each breath slow, each release long and effortless. There was nothing to disturb him, no sound to stir him from the cradle of stillness that had formed around his body. The desert had become more than a place. It was a presence now, a living calm that knew how to hold him gently without ever asking him to leave. The Sphinx stood in its ancient place, touched now by the first pale blush of morning light. Its stone face remained unreadable, but its presence continued to offer safety, a peace that did not ask questions. It watched, not to judge, but to care. Naren felt it like a hand resting softly over his heart, stilling even the quietest parts of him, allowing every piece of his being to relax. The sand beneath him had warmed slightly, but not enough to wake him. It was like lying in the memory of sunlight, a warmth that held no edge, only softness. Above, the air carried no urgency. It moved slowly through the space around his body, never interrupting, only weaving gently like a breeze between tall reeds. His mind remained free of thought. He did not try to understand the peace, he only accepted it. When images rose, they came without reason. A lantern flickering behind a curtain, a stone vessel filled with water left for passing travelers, a group of birds rising in slow formation as morning came to a quiet shore. These were not stories, only moments, quiet as breath, drifting through the open rooms of his mind. He imagined lying beside the Nile again, his body half in the water, half on the bank. The current moved lazily past him, cool and clear. Reeds rustled softly nearby, and dragonflies traced slow circles in the air. There was no destination, only drift. No current strong enough to carry him away, only movement enough to rock him gently, as if sleep itself had taken the form of water. He let go further still, though there was nothing left to release. Even the shape of his body seemed to dissolve. He became only breath, only warmth, only presence. No longer Naren, not as a man or a name, but something lighter, something softer, resting as part of the desert's silence. The light at the horizon grew brighter, but it did not chase away the night. It blended softly, layering golden hues upon the deep blue. Day would come, but it would come gently, as everything else did here. Even time walked softly in the desert, stepping carefully so as not to disturb the dreams that lay scattered like petals on the sand. He remained still, deeper now than before. The weight of the world had left him, replaced only by the hush of this ancient place. In the arms of the Sphinx's shadow, with the wind as his blanket, and the stars as his memory, he drifted into the most sacred kind of sleep, the kind that does not end, but transforms. The desert had taught him how to rest, not just to lie down, but to truly surrender, to open to the calm that exists beneath the noise of thought, beneath the stories, beneath the day. It had shown him how to breathe in rhythm with the sky, how to listen to the silence between the stars. And now he slept, not as a visitor, but as one who belonged. The morning light had begun its slow reach across the sky, but it moved with the same care as the stars that had watched through the night. The desert did not rush toward day. It allowed the dawn to unfold like a bloom opening one petal at a time, soft, deliberate, and silent. Naren lay still, his body at one with the sand, his breath quiet, his mind resting in a space that knew no time. The warmth of the earth rose gently around him, not enough to stir his limbs, only enough to remind him that the night had passed. But even that reminder came softly. Nothing in the desert forced change. Even the sun was respectful here, lifting itself inch by inch over the edge of the dunes, casting long, golden shadows across the land. The Sphinx remained, touched now with early light, its features bathed in quiet gold. It looked neither forward nor back. Its gaze stayed steady on the horizon, as though it knew that everything it needed to see would appear in its own time. Its presence still held Naren, its stillness anchoring him, even as the world around them shifted toward day. The breeze had softened us further, barely more than a sigh as it moved over the sand and through the low shrubs. It carried the scent of morning, faint, dry sweetness mixed with something earthy and old. Naren breathed it in slowly, unconsciously, the way a child breathes in the comfort of a familiar place. The desert, the Sphinx, the sky, they were all part of the air now, part of his lungs, part of his sleep. He drifted deeper, though his body did not move. He imagined a small stream again, hidden beneath the sand, running quietly beneath the earth. It carried water that had traveled far, slipping through ancient stones, winding under forgotten roots, never rushing, never lost. The stream had no need to surface, no need to be seen. It simply flowed, calm and true, just as Naren's breath now did. In his thoughts, soft as they were, he saw reeds swaying by the water's edge, slow and dreamlike. He saw the curve of a hill beyond them, and a tree with branches long and reaching. Beneath the tree, in the quiet of its shadow, rested a shape not unlike his own, still, peaceful, at ease. He did not try to speak to it. He simply watched. In watching, he felt his own stillness deepen. The desert around him was awakening, but it did so with reverence. Nothing rose with noise. No sudden sounds came to break the silence. The insects whispered. The birds, those that flew early, gave soft calls, as if clearing their throats rather than singing. Even the sun moved gently, climbing not with fire, but with grace. The whole world knew that some dreams should not be broken, and Naren's dream was one of them. He felt the warmth now, more present, more complete. It spread across his chest, across his arms, down through his legs, but it brought no heat of discomfort. It was the kind of warmth that welcomes without asking, like the quiet presence of someone you love. The kind of warmth that says, you are safe, you are home, there is no need to rise. And so he stayed, his limbs loose, his face soft, his breath steady. The wind touched him like memory, the sunlight like music too gentle to be heard. He was surrounded not by emptiness, but by presence. The presence of earth and sky, the presence of everything that had come before him and everything that would come after. And in the center of it all, he slept, a single quiet note in a song older than time. The sky, though touched by the early morning, still held the softness of night. It was not yet bright, not yet loud with light. The sun moved carefully, as if not to wake what had chosen to remain asleep. And Naren, wrapped in warmth and silence, drifted deeper into the space between waking and dreaming, where nothing demanded his presence, where nothing asked him to return. The desert around him stirred, but only slightly. A flicker of wind moved across the sand. A single bird called once, then returned to its quiet. The air shimmered just above the surface, catching the gold of the morning and turning it to liquid light. But Naren did not open his eyes. He had no need to see the desert to know it. It had become part of him, and he part of it. His thoughts were like clouds now, soft, slow, barely formed. One would pass through his mind like a drift of mist, never staying long, never speaking loud. He saw a garden of stone, each shape warm and smooth under his fingertips. He saw a row of lamps flickering in the hallway of an old temple, their flames barely moving. He saw hands lifting water from a basin, letting it fall back slowly, drop by drop, into the still pool below. None of these images pulled him. They passed as gently as the breeze, and he let them go without reaching for them. His body did not tense, his breath did not change. He had learned, in this sacred stillness, that rest did not come from stopping thoughts, but from allowing them to drift without invitation, without resistance. The sand beneath him had grown warmer, but it held him just as gently. Its softness conformed to him without pressure, cradling every curve of his body as if shaped by intention. The desert had accepted his rest as part of its own quiet rhythm. He was no longer a visitor here. He was part of the stillness, one grain of calm in the endless sea of silence. The Sphinx stood near, unchanged. The light touched its face now, softening its features, casting shadows beneath its carved eyes, but its gaze did not shift. Its silence did not break. It had watched thousands sleep before him, had watched the stars wheel overhead through the centuries, had watched the dunes reshape themselves without a single word. And now, it watched Naren sleep, and its stillness blessed his own. He imagined a path of stones winding through the sand, leading to a place no map could find. On either side, flowering plants bloomed in the shade of ancient walls, their petals open not to the sun, but to the silence. A breeze passed down the path, stirring nothing but peace. He followed it in his mind, not walking, but floating just above the stones, carried by quiet itself. Far ahead, he saw the shape of a small pool, surrounded by white lilies. No one else was there. The space was empty of sound, full only of calm. He lowered himself into the water without making a ripple, and the surface closed around him as gently as a sigh. The water held him the way the sand had held him. No weight, no pull, only warmth. In that place, both real and imagined, he felt the desert breathing through him. It had no voice, but its message was clear. Rest, it said. Stay. You are where you belong. And so he did. The sun moved a little higher, but it still cast long, stretched shadows across the dunes. Its light, golden and quiet, touched everything with a gentle hand. It warmed the sand, the stones, and the ancient face of the Sphinx, but not enough to disturb the deep hush that lingered. The desert remained silent, a silence so vast it filled even the space between thoughts. Naren stayed still, his body resting without effort, without question. He no longer remembered when he had arrived in this place of peace, and he did not need to. Time had loosened its shape around him. Minutes passed like hours, and hours folded into themselves like the curves of a dune. Nothing rushed, nothing waited. There was only now, and now was endless. He dreamed again, though the dreams came more as feelings than as images. He felt the coolness of shade beneath a stone archway, the smooth surface of a clay jug between his palms, the rustle of linen as he walked slowly through a quiet hallway. He felt the sun on his skin, not as heat, but as presence. And always, always, the soundless comfort of silence wrapped around him like a soft veil. The breeze returned, stirring lightly through the air, brushing over his face and hands. It smelled of dry flowers and sun-warmed rock. It did not demand his attention. It only offered itself a reminder that the world outside his breath still moved, still cared, still held him gently. He thought of the river again. The Nile flowed within him now, not as water, but as rhythm. It had become his breath, steady and smooth, flowing endlessly toward nothing, carrying only the message of rest. Its banks were shaded with tall grasses, its waters clear, its surface dappled with the light of a sky so wide, so blue, that it seemed to hold the whole world within it. Naren floated within that river, not cold, not hot, simply held. He did not try to move, for there was no need. The river would take him where he was meant to go, though there was nowhere he needed to be. The movement was so slow he could barely feel it, yet it was perfect, exactly enough to let him know he was being carried by something older than thought. The Sphinx watched still, its shadow, now shorter, stretched behind it. Its stone face remained steady, serene. There was wisdom there, not spoken but felt, the kind of wisdom that asked no questions, offered no answers, but gave comfort without form. Its silence was its gift, and Naren accepted it fully. He imagined again a quiet room with tall pillars, sunlight falling in long lines across the floor. He saw baskets filled with dried herbs, jars sealed with wax, and soft cushions where one might sit and listen to the voice of the wind echoing through stone. The room did not ask him to stay. It simply waited for him, always present in his thoughts, a space he could return to when the world became too loud. And so he rested, not just his body, but his soul. Every part of him had been released from effort. He had nothing to do, nothing to remember, nothing to hope for. Everything he needed was already here in the sand beneath him, in the sky above, in the silence within. He did not know if it was morning or still night, and it did not matter. In the desert's quiet, time was not something to chase. It was something to rest inside, and Naren, deep within that stillness, remained untouched, unhurried, complete. The warmth of the morning began to settle fully across the land, though it did so without force. It crept gently into every hollow, touching the edges of stones, brushing the curves of the dunes, settling on the broad back of the Sphinx. Nothing stirred loudly. Even the sun seemed to understand that this world, this moment, belonged to silence. Naren breathed with the rhythm of that silence. Each breath was like a soft tide, rolling in and out of him, bringing with it a deeper sense of rest. His eyes remained closed, not because they were heavy, but because there was nothing he needed to see. The world was not out there anymore. It was within him now, still and complete. He imagined a grove of trees growing quietly along the edge of the river. Their leaves rustled like whispers, and their roots stretched deep into the soft earth, drinking in cool water beneath the surface. Birds nestled among their branches, heads tucked under wings, unmoved by the rise of light. Everything in that grove, like him, understood that there was no hurry, no task waiting, only the gift of being still. The image changed, without thought or direction. He saw a room carved into stone, cool and shaded, lit only by a single beam of morning light falling through a narrow opening above. Dust drifted slowly through the air, moving like golden snow. In the center of the room was a small basin of water, still and reflective, as if it held the memory of the sky. Around it, nothing stirred, yet the space felt full, not with sound or motion, but with peace. His thoughts returned to the Sphinx, not as a statue, but as a companion. Its form had been there through everything, through moonlight and sunrise, through deep breath and deeper silence. He had not spoken to it, and it had not spoken to him. But in its quiet company, he had found something stronger than conversation. He had found presence, unwavering and kind. The desert wind moved again, curling around his fingers, lifting a strand of hair from his brow, carrying with it the scent of warm stone and distant blossoms. It did not carry questions. It carried comfort. It was as if the land itself was saying, "You are welcome here. You are safe. You can let go." And so he did. Every part of him, from the slow beat of his heart to the tips of his fingers and toes, surrendered, not in weakness, but in trust. Trust that the world would hold him. Trust that there was no need to do anything more. Trust that the earth, the air, the sun, and the stars had all conspired to create this moment of perfect stillness just for him. He imagined lying beside the great river again, his body curled beneath the arching shade of a palm. The water whispered its endless lullaby, a sound without sharpness or edge, only flow. The palm leaves danced above him, their movement so slow it was more like breathing. Time was water here, slipping by unseen, carrying nothing but calm. The warmth around him deepened, but never pushed. It remained gentle, like a blanket warmed by the sun, and laid carefully over him. He felt no need to shift, no need to reach or to rise. He was not waiting for anything. He was simply here, and here was enough. The desert had opened its arms, and he had stepped inside without knowing. Now, wrapped in silence, held by stillness, he remained. His breath moved, soft as sand. His heart beat, slow and steady, and the world, ancient and patient, kept watch without asking for anything in return. The morning reached its fullness, but it did so in quiet harmony with the stillness of the land. The sun now hovered above the desert's edge, spreading warmth across the sand in a golden wave, but it did not chase away the peace. It merely added to it, layering light upon calm, warmth upon silence. The world remained gentle, slow, and kind. Naren's body, wrapped in that gentle warmth, felt lighter than ever. He was not floating, but he no longer felt the pull of weight. He had become part of the desert's breath, the Sphinx's shadow, the soft hush of the morning air. Nothing touched him that was not soft. Nothing reached for him that did not bring comfort. His thoughts had faded to little more than sensations. A memory of cool stone under bare feet, the soft pattern of a clay ball's rim beneath his fingers, the scent of herbs crushed between palms. These sensations floated like dust in a beam of light, not reaching for meaning, not asking to stay. They were part of the atmosphere now, part of the fabric of the space in which he rested. He imagined a long corridor stretching into the earth, lit by torches that burned without heat. Along its walls, ancient paintings told stories that no longer needed to be understood. They simply existed, lines and colors, figures and symbols, resting in quiet observation. He walked through this place in his mind, not with steps, but with thought, and felt the coolness of the stone walls wrap around him like a protective shell. At the end of the corridor, a small room opened into silence. Inside it, nothing stirred. A cushion rested on the floor, a single candle flickered beside it, and the air held the scent of something clean, like linen dried in the sun. Naren entered this room and sat, not because he had been told to, but because it felt natural. As he sat, the world around him became even quieter, as if silence itself were leaning in, wrapping him fully in its embrace.